You have most assuredly heard of the keto diet and know it as a version of the low carb diet. But do you know the science behind it? What makes it work? What separates it from a standard low carb diet? It is important to understand all these details and the science around it in order to truly be successful at keto. For the majority of the world, people's bodies are mainly fueled by glucose or blood sugar. However, there is an alternate fuel source that our bodies can utilize. In the absence of sugar, our bodies have the capability to produce these things called ketones that can provide it with the energy that it needs. In fact, this process of utilizing ketones was widely used by our ancestors. There may be some disagreements among scholars about the percentage of time that our ancestors spent in a ketogenic state, but make no mistake, it was part of their lives and it was essential for survival. The modern-day ketogenic diet was first used in the 1920s when it was found that patients with seizure disorders showed significant improvement when in a fasted state. However, it is impossible for anyone to fast for forever. What doctors discovered was that if a patient was in a ketogenic state, it mimicked a fasting state. Similar to when we're fasting in ketogenic state, we are using fat as a primary fuel source. When this occurs, a lot of very interesting things start to happen in our body. We'll get into that in a minute, but first, let's discuss what it takes to get into the state of ketosis. To enter a state of ketosis, your carbohydrate intake has to be below 50 grams of net carbohydrates per day. To calculate net carbs, you subtract dietary fiber and sugar alcohols from total carbohydrates. You then have to eat a moderate amount of protein. You might ask yourself, why does protein matter? I'm glad you asked. Our bodies are amazing machines. If you're restricting your carbohydrates but getting a majority of your calories from protein, our bodies will perform a process called gluconeogenesis, where it will take protein and even fat and turn it into glucose for energy. In fact, our bodies do this to a limited extent even when we're in ketosis, because your body will always require some glucose. But back to the formula, we cut way back on the carbohydrates, eat moderate amounts of protein, and ensure the rest of our calories are coming from fat. The typical ratio would be 5 to 10% carbohydrates, 10 to 20% protein, and 70 to 80% fat. However, these ratios will vary from person to person based on several factors. We'll cover this in detail in a future video on getting started with the keto diet. When these ratios are met, our liver will start producing ketones to fuel the body, and at that point, we become fat-burning machines. That is the whole idea behind the keto diet. When you combine ketosis with a calorie deficit, our bodies can quickly go to our fat stores for energy. In fact, when in this state, our bodies actually prefer to use the fat from our fat stores than the fat we consume. Another aspect of keto is insulin. What we need to know about insulin is it's a storage hormone. When insulin levels rise, our bodies go into storage mode and they will not go to our fat stores for energy. When we restrict our carbohydrates and eat moderate amounts of protein, we are controlling the insulin spikes within our body. Every time we eat, insulin is released. But when we eat in a ketogenic fashion, the insulin spikes are a lot less and they do not last as long. This is what insulin levels look like on a standard diet versus a keto diet. You can see on the keto diet that the insulin levels do not spike as high and return to baseline much faster, which gives us much more time in a fat-burning zone. When insulin levels are low, our pancreas can release a hormone called glucagon. Glucagon is the opposite of insulin, and instead of telling our bodies to store energy, it tells our bodies to go to the energy that it's already stored. It is the switch that turns our bodies into a fat-burning mode. The last aspect that I'd like to cover is the fact that research shows that ketones are actually a more efficient fuel source for our bodies. They produce more energy per molecule than glucose. They're also a lot cleaner fuel for our body, in that they produce much less in the way of metabolic byproducts than glucose. This means when we're in ketosis, there's a lot fewer free radicals in our body. This is just scratching the surface on the benefits of the keto diet that are backed by research. If you'd like to know more about the benefits of the keto diet, you can check out the video where I went into detail and did an overview of some of the biggest benefits of keto. It is much more than just a low-carb diet. So what are your thoughts about keto? Let me know in the comments.